Hey guys, and thanks for tuning in to the original Strength Bodcast. This week we have brought back my good friend, mentor, and all around awesome coach, Mr. Dan John. Dan, welcome back.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me back. Usually people don't bring me back like into their homes or anything. That's nice. It's unusual, yeah.
Well, I do wish you lived a little bit closer, then you could actually hang out with
Yeah.
me.
It,
But this week we are talking to Dan about Mass Made Simple and all things mass. And so Mass Made Simple is a book, or Dan, would you call it a book or a training guide, training manual?
well, it's a book that is bound by rings. So yeah, more of a manual. What I wanted it to be, Tim, is I wanted to be a what I wanted it to be was the truth. Honestly, yeah, that's what it was. I had been working so long with people to get, build up for football and track and field and stuff, get big. And I'd seen all this nonsense, and it's like none of that junk works. So what I did was I pulled out the little experiments we had done, and it seemed like every time we had done, um, we got a little better, a little better, a little better. And then finally, one day, I think it was 2011, I said, I'm not going to make this any better. So here's what I think. And it comes down to there's a minor warm up in it. There is a little bit of upper body work, bench press, one arm press, bird dogs, and there's you do complexes every day, which is unusual. A complex, folks, is when I'll do a set of 8 rows, followed by 8 cleans, followed by 8 front squats, followed by 8 presses, followed by 8 back squats, followed by 8 rows. Put the weight down. Do it again. Do it 3 times. That's 3 sets of 8's tough. And then the other thing was the high rep squats to finish off. And what I'd found is that I constantly, in fact, if you read the reviews on Amazon, I still get pushed back. Some jackass said something like, well, bodybuilders do leg press and there's no leg presses. And it's like, fine. If you want to do what druggies do, go do what druggies do. But if you're going to do it clean and you're going to do it so it's going to hold up for drug tested sports and stick around for a while, try it my way. So does that, I don't know if I summed the book at all, but yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's basically 14 workouts over 6 weeks. You can spread out to 7 weeks. Um, I don't know why I'd want to do it longer, but and the goal is to squat your body weight for 50 times in one set.
50 times in one set.
Yep.
Those are legs of pistons then.
Well, and what happens is, the time under tension on that's going to be, in the minutes. Um, I think the first time I ever did it, gosh, back in '77 maybe, I went well over 5 minutes to do it because you just can't. What's weird, and this is a hard thing, it's funny because people are just listening; they're not actually currently squatting their body weight right now. But when you get to 30 reps, to get to 31 is just one more rep, but it's so hard. And then to get one more after that, that's now you're to 32. Isn't that great? You still have 18 more reps, and you're dying. I remember looking down for a moment, and there was this puddle of sweat underneath me that your kids could have taken their toys and played in it for a while. Now that would have been disgusting, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard work. But go ahead, ask anything you want. I'll tell you everything.
All right, so you got your complexes, and you came out with this in 2011, or that's when
Hmm.
you said this is it. Um, Now,
Yeah.
in my eyes, you're constantly still seeking truth, and you're constantly always refining stuff.
Right.
So for how you laid out Mass Made Simple in 2011, is there, as far as the lifts go, is there anything you would change today in 2009 in 2020?
In fact, I'd be more emphatic about certain things. I still get pushback from people that I recommend peanut. I recommend you have a backpack with a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, and a jar of jelly, and you make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches all the time. And people go, well, that's got sugar in it. It's going to do this and it's going to do that. In 6 weeks of your life, I'm asking you to shovel as many calories. And someone goes, well, why don't you just do hard boiled eggs? I go, okay, you do hard boiled eggs. I want you to walk around with a dozen hard-boiled eggs, and every hour or so, toss 2 hard-boiled eggs in your mouth. Call me when you've done that for 6 weeks. It's
Yes.
nearly impossible. And so, yeah, I would be a lot more pushy about the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Now, listen, do I agree with it? Yeah, it's got sugar in it. And you will, your eyes are going to fall out and you'll get fangs and you'll be, yeah, it's terrible. You're going to die because you ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But the truth is, how else are you going to shovel all those calories down? And the first week, it doesn't make sense. But by about week 3 or 4, when it feels like you're growing. I've had people tell me it's weird. I feel like I'm growing in my seat, you know. Then you want something that you can kind of easily shovel down your throat. I've had people tell me, well, I'm just going to do protein shakes. So you're going to eat 3 or 4 meals a day and do 6 protein shakes a day. Oh, yeah, yeah. Get back at me on that. See how that goes. That's tough to do. It's tough to do. So I'd be a little bit, I might add one more easy squat day in there. Workout 8 is an easy day, kind of just tens. I might add one more easy squat day in there. But yeah, I hate to say it, but it's spinning. Why mess with it? It's pretty. Mass Made Simple right now is pretty good, and trying to make it better. And the thing is, Tim, to be honest, in absolute intellectual candor, I have no feedback that tells me I should change it.
Right on.
And if you don't get hands going up or someone honestly saying to you, it's called phenomenology. You do something and then you share experiences with them. I'm not getting that kind of feedback to change it.
Awesome.
And so when I don't hear, I'm not getting that information. No one's saying change it. In fact, some people are asking me if there's a way I could morph it into fat loss made simple, which we tried to do and it was a disastrous failure. 3 protein shakes a day, 1 meal. Instead of doing your body weight, you drop down like, what are you weighing right now, Tim?
160.
Okay,
I'm up 15 pounds since I talked to you last.
Okay, in the
And peanut
program,
butter.
in the program, you would be using the 165 as your top weight. For fat loss made simple, you would drop down to 135 in your case, and work up to 50 because you're trying to burn the fat with the complex and the high rep squats, but it just didn't work. It just didn't work. Maybe just intellectually, from about here on up, I think that to burn fat doing high rep complexes and high rep squats makes sense. But in the actual experience of it, it doesn't. Because if you're cutting calories hard here and you've got a lot of load there, this is a rock and a hard place. And something's got to give. And what gives in this case was interesting. People's knees, good squatters, never had any knee issues. Their knees bothered them. And I don't know why, but that's good enough to go, okay. So fat loss made simple. Gentle listener, it's 3 protein shakes a day. The first one is a coffee-based protein shake. And then there's 2 more, and then you eat a dinner. It's not bad. The diet comes from Dan and Mary Eads' Protein Power Lifespan. Just couldn't make it work, though. And
So
go ahead.
I want to ask you, because in Fat Loss Made Simple and Mass Made Simple, well, let's go to Mass Made Simple. What you're saying, though, when you're talking about the calories and the peanut butter and the jelly sandwiches, is that it is more than just lifting weights.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It is absolutely more than just lifting weights. I wouldn't say lifting weights is the easy part because you're doing lots and lots of squats, but you really have to put yourself in a situation where you're anabolic, as we used to say back in about 1991. In 1991, anabolic meant that you were in plus protein situation. You 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 weren't balanced on protein, you were plus on protein. And catabolic back in 1990 and 91 used to be your protein needs are under what you're consuming. Your protein needs aren't being met by your intake. But I also think there is a need for a caloric surplus. I've had people tell me, "Oh yeah, I feel like I put some fat on." And well, okay, that you should have done some kind of accurate testing before. And I go, "Really? What do you notice?" He goes, "Well, really, I don't notice anything, but I just don't believe I could put on that much weight in 6 weeks." And so they just now here's the other side of everything, Tim. People forget that it's 6 weeks, and then you stop. Most people make their best gains about 2 weeks after the program is over. But that's the whole rubber band, you know. So I'm asking you during those 6 weeks to pull that rubber band. At the end of the 6 weeks, we're letting it go. Somebody said to me, "What's so good, why don't you just keep doing it?" I go, no. You got to let it go. You know, you got to be done. I don't want you walking around with, 20 bucks worth of groceries no matter where you're going. I don't want you fearing your workouts. I want you to enjoy yourself again, getting back to normal.
If you were to pick it back up a couple of times in a year, how often would you pick it up if you wanted to continue to, I guess, add mass?
The most I've ever seen it work is twice a year.
Okay.
Now, you might have someone email you and say they did it more, but when I worked with the high school boys to get them ready for football, we could get it to work right after football season. Right after football season. So that November, that Christmas, that pre-Christmas break, or just after Christmas break. To do it pre-Christmas, you really have to dial it down. You have to really think through those workouts. It's got to work with playoffs. The playoff. If your team's playing for the state championship in December, like some states do, not then, but right after that Christmas break, January, first 2 weeks of February work well, and then another one right after spring training. So that would be late May, first 2 weeks of June, before the big summer vacation kicks in. And that always worked out. Actually, that one probably worked out better because the students would finish their finals and we'd only have like 4 more workouts, 5 more workouts. And so they had academic stress was out of the way. And now they could just, do the work, which is, which we're always searching for. Get the job done. Yeah.
The reason I wanted to ask you about the calories with the Mass Made Simple is because I often get, probably every week, somebody will write to me and ask, "Can I build mass using original strength?" And it's not that simple though, because like I think they're approaching it, well, if I do these movements, can I build mass? But you got to look at other variables like nutrition, how much you're taking in, time under tension, resistance, low, all that stuff. And
yeah.
It's just never that simple to say yes or no. I mean, I think you could, but you'd have to be a student of it and be diligent of it and, check your boxes. But it's so much more than just moving.
I don't know if you could. I mean, you certainly could do some things. Could set original strength would set the system up for a good mass building experience.
Yes.
So it would be the, when you paint a room, original strength is the blue tape. It's the getting everything away from the wall. It's puttying up the holes. But the mass building program is when it's going to be a little bit different. It's got to be heavy, hard.
Yes. Yeah. So no, and if I were going to try to do it with OS, the only way I would do it would be like loading, like crawling, dragging 200 pounds of chain. But it was still, I mean, it's no longer just managing your own body weight, at that point.
I've heard people tell me that they were able to get more mass doing body weight programs. And if you work with high school kids, you can see it happen. Like if you push pull-ups and push-ups and some other things, but it comes to a crashing halt post-puberty.
Yeah, well, I've seen, and you've seen the guys too, like, because if it were just volume, so like Hindu squats, people that do 500 to 1,000 Hindu squats,
Yeah.
they would a day or so, but they would have just massive tree trunks. But not all the times they do. They have nice looking legs, but they're not massive tree trunks a lot.
Yeah, and you're not going to throw the discus far or the shot far with that, or offensive line play. Yeah, yeah. The hard thing about mass is you need to do very little, very hard. That's the problem with mass. I used to have, I still have a program called One Lift a Day, and I often would give it to somebody who went into the weight room for 4 hours. They do the innie machine, the outie machine, the leg extension, the leg curl, the single leg press, the contralateral, blah blah blah. Well, if all you can do is front squats, you can't escape. So you can't do 3 sets of 8 on the innie and 3 sets. When you're doing front squats, today's workout, I want you to go up to 315 for 10 sets of 2 in the front squat. Well, you're going to gain some mass doing that because the body's we gave the body no other options. You're going to get strong or die, like the French Foreign Legion movie, March or Die,
So I think it's important too with your program, Mass Made Simple. You're actually building mass to help improve athletic performance. So,
which is why it's very important you put it in certain specific times.
Right, but you're not building mass for bodybuilding purposes only.
It would work.
It would, but I've got a hunch that the complexes and the lifts you're using for your Mass Made Simple and the way you're going about it are more performance enhancing.
Yeah.
They go beyond looking like Tarzan, I guess.
But I've had a chance in my past when I was younger to sit with some of the best minds in bodybuilding, and they were very clear. Charles Glass, I never met him, but I wish him. John McCallum, kind of wish I could have met him. But they were very clear about, they used to call it softening up and quit trying, the problem with bodybuilders is they chase too many rabbits at once. I want to put on some mass, but I don't want to lose my rip. I want to stay ripped. Well, it's really hard to do. Now, they get around it with the drugs, but for the clean bodybuilder, there's no way you can do it. There's no way you can chase 2 rabbits. So I remember when Dick Nottmeyer was working with the bodybuilder, and the bodybuilder kept pushing back on this exercise called the power clean. And Dick kept arguing, you don't have a base, you need to be stronger to add more size. Oh no, I don't. That's not what some guy at Venice Beach says. But I was down there. I saw Lou Ferrigno doing workout. I saw some of those fake Robbie Robinson train. I saw some of the greatest names in bodybuilding train. And those guys trained like weightlifters. They didn't train like what you think of bodybuilding. They weren't doing what they used to call muscle splitting. These guys were using big weights, and they were impressive. Robbie Robinson gave me some advice. If you ever need to gain size, you do bench press and pull-ups one day. You just keep cycling those 2. And the other day is front squat and stiff leg deadlifts. So you just keep front squatting those. Front squat, stiff leg, front squat, stiff leg. And then he showed me this little thing to run up this hill. And I was like, okay, thank you, Robbie. I think I've learned something here. But he's what is he, 75, and he looks better than anybody I know. And basic, simple, heavy. So if I was going to work with the bodybuilder, and I don't think I ever will, it's not. They would never. It's just not in this day and age. One of the things I would strive to get them to do is spend some time softening up and getting big again. Because if your thighs are this big, 37, 38 inches around, when you cut that, it's going to look impressive. When your leg is 26 inches, when you cut that, you might as well wear those board shorts they do, hide those legs, baby,
So let me ask you this question, since we're talking about bodybuilding, because I heard you say this in a group full of strength coaches, and you said, you looked at everybody, and I thought it was amazing. You said, you know what your problem is? Your problem is I think it was 75, Arnold Schwarzenegger came out with a book called The Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding.
Arnold Educational Bodybuilder, yeah.
Yes. So what did you mean by that? Like, can you educate us?
Well, in fact, it ended up me getting beat down by someone online, but a guy who wrote a book on burning fat said, I don't get it. Why? What is this thing about push, pull, hinge, squat, loaded carry? Basically quoted my thing from Intervention. And then said, whatever happened to split body workouts? And so I didn't even want to get engaged, and I shouldn't have. But my name came up, and the guy was ripping on loaded carries. He thought that old school training was 3 days a week, total body workouts, 1972, or splits like Arnold did in 1974. He thought that was, caveman training. He thought that was as old as hills. That's not old school. That's what happened in 1975 when bodybuilding came to the forefront. The bodybuilders in the 60s didn't train like that. And I saw the great bodybuilders train, and they didn't train like the magazine said either. That's all lies. And yet these guys, I feel bad for these guys. And these guys are adults. I'm thinking about this one guy who's 40. He said this stupid thing at a dinner one time. I didn't want to call him out too hard, but I just went, he is convinced that in his lifetime, everything about strength training has happened in his lifetime. He's 40. Born in what, 1980? And he thinks that everything that's ever happened is in his lifetime. Well, I was throwing the discus pretty far before he was born, but this is where we need Walt Whitman about a song of myself right now I need his poetry in the background right now, but just because you weren't there doesn't mean it didn't happen, especially in my field, the weightlifting. Guys have done it much better than us, much, much better than us. So I think I'm getting lost here, but in 1975, that book came out, and it became the Bible of how we do things in the weight room. And it's just not, and it kills, especially this, I want to say this young generation, but it's their dads who got killed by it, and then the dads are just parroting bad information. Why do you need a tricep day if you're a shot putter? It's a full body throw. If you think your kid's going to throw the discus farther by doing pec flies, you're too stupid to be around. It's whole body. The body is one piece. Yeah, you're right. And I'm glad I said that. I need to be even meaner when I speak to groups. I'm going to work on that.
I don't know. I thought that was a very eye-opening statement, and I'm sure you had everybody's attention in the room, especially when you said that.
Yeah,
so let me ask you this: you have another name for mass building, and you call it armor building.
No, okay. Let's just break that off real quick.
Okay.
There's a concept that Stu McGill calls stone, and that is us.
Mm-hmm.
And I teach it 3 different ways. So let's go as you're one of the things you need to do as an athlete sometimes is turn yourself into an arrow. So that's when you hit somebody in football, you turn yourself into an arrow. When you hit the discus, you're turning your body into a bow and arrow. Boom. Okay. So arrow training is one of the things I can do as a strength coach, is I can tell it to get you to go boom, snap, instantly, boom. Everything works at once. Everything snaps, and the implement goes far, the running back goes far, whatever. So that's arrow. The next one's called anaconda. And anaconda is like if you hug something really hard and your stomach pushes out. Anaconda is inner tube strength. Like you're a bicycle inner tube, and we push out. The third is armor. And armor, if you ever tumbled, one of the things you'll notice the first day tumbling, you get kind of beat up by the tumbling mat. 3 weeks later, you don't notice it. When you first wrestle, when I used to wrestle, this nostril would bleed every day in the first 2 weeks of practice. And I'm walking around like this, I'm silent background, up my nose all the time. After about 2 weeks, it never bled again, because my body built up armor. So armor is your ability to handle that forearm hitting into face masks for an hour and a half, 2 hours, however long the game is. Armor is being able to hit the ground and bounce back up. That's, I hate to call it, Frank Shamrock called calluses. You callus your body. I like that. But it's getting used to being hit. And that's those three, you pick those three. So if you're a hammer thrower, we would focus on anaconda strength. As a discus thrower, anaconda and arrow. As football, anaconda, arrow, and armor. You see how?
Yes, sir.
There needs to be a place for each of those. So yes, hypertrophy has a value for football players. Because as we always say, you don't get smaller as the game goes on. You get slower, but you don't get smaller.
All right, so for the 55-year-old, how important is muscle mass and how important is armor building for the 55-year-old?
Well,
or plus, 55 plus.
Post 35, you are fighting a losing war with lean body mass and mobility, the movement around the joints. So lean body mass and mobility are the two things I tell people after 35. This is what you should focus. You really should train like a bodybuilder after 35, even if you're an athlete, because your lean body mass, you're getting fatter and losing muscle at the same time. Nature's a beast. And then, of course, you're also getting stiffer in the sense of mobility. Don't worry so much about flexibility. So the importance of armor would be not so much armor itself, but the little things like learning how to take a fall and roll, making sure you always wear your seatbelt, making sure you have a helmet on. In my case here, I reach for the stairwell more than I ever used to because I just don't want to be the guy who dies in a fall in my house. So I'm not sure armor as in contact armor is important, but armor as in hypertrophy is important.
Okay. How about then, and I'm just trying to, so bounce. What about bounce for the 55 plus?
Oh, okay. So bounce, gentle listener, so there's three ways to use the word. Taleb uses anti-fragile. So, when you get something, I got a glass here. If I drop this on the floor, it's going to break. But what if I dropped it on the floor and it actually got stronger? And then I dropped it on the floor and it got better again. Well, that would be his term, anti-fragile. With the work I do with the United States, the word we use is resilience. Your ability to come to, well, the phrase I like best now is bounce, because it's got such a clear, the word bounce to me has such it just sounds so good. You're gonna hit the ground and you're gonna bounce back into a better life. Bounce. It's such more. To me, bounce has we're gonna bounce back. We're gonna. I just like the phrase better. I got it from Peter Wilkins. He's the defense coach for Connacht Rugby, and he said you got to bounce back into the play. And I thought that is a brilliant way to say this. Bounce back into the play. So one of the things I want to do at 62 is if I do hit the floor, I want to roll and pop up and go ta-da. If I do get, like I did last year, I had to deal with, I was born with this condition called pistol grip hips. And they're fine now because they're all titanium, but I've been dealing with my hips since about my first note in my journal about clicking hips is 1971. My hips make a noise when I squat. So I've been dealing with this, and my niece was born with the same condition. She had to do a special thing for her when she was little. My brothers had the total hip. My cousins have all had them. My family has this condition, so I don't take it as some weakness. I just take it as luck of the draw, man. I could be ugly.
Well, thank goodness that didn't happen.
So a year and a month ago, I had a total hip replacement, and I'm 36 pounds lighter than I was that day. I ruck every day with a 60-pound pack on, and I just got done squatting, and I just did some Olympic lifting this morning. I'm like, I didn't just get over the surgery. You follow?
Yeah.
I bounced.
Bounce.
Yeah, I was down, man. No question, I was down, but I bounced, and that's what I'm trying to get across with. So when you train, if you think about this okay, let's stick with that. Just let's stick with 35 and above. I hate to you did I think you said 55, but let's jump all the way down to 35, just because after 35, body build, mobility work, bounce.
All right.
And the bounce will be discussing things like the importance of flossing. So you don't. There's three sides to bouncing. Okay. There's the preventative. There's the incident, and then there's the road back. Okay. Um, Doing some preventative stuff like standing on one foot, doing different drills on one foot might help you not fall. But once you fall, knowing how to roll is going to help you a lot more than not knowing how to roll out of a fall. And then the bounce back part, if either you bounce back up and say ta-da, or you bounce back up and you get back in the game better. So that to me that's what bounce is to me.
Okay. So back to since we're back at 35 and you said nature's a beast. Why do you think people after 35 or 30 even start to lose muscle mass?
Well, Heidegger's Physiology of Strength talks about that in fairly good detail. They did all those studies of people, and it's just now. Here's what he also says, and this is important, Tim. If you train, you don't get this.
That's what I was looking for.
So his idea is you probably peak on strength in your early 20s. My strength peaked when I was about 35. Now, it's partially because I went to the Middle East, got sick, and I had all those academic things I had to take care of. So I missed some years of training, and I came back. I threw farther in my 40s, which was impressive.
That is impressive.
But my strength, in my 40s, I was, even now, even though I coast through a lot of workouts, I'm freakishly strong. Freakishly strong. We were doing that thing, Ben Fogel talks about it. We were at a RKC, and I pressed the beast 13 times.
Yeah, that's freakishly strong.
Yeah.
So that's for you if you're listening, the beast is the 106-pound kettlebell?
6-pound kettlebell. And part of what happened is at a cert not long before, I was told that somebody better than me was going to teach the press, and I kept thinking, really? Okay. So I'm still freakishly strong, but because I really have never, there were times where I have not worked out, but it's not been very often since 1971. An illness or life thing would come in. When I used to coach football, it was hard to get my workouts in. But I had a buddy who used to, he was a minister, and he would make sure. It was interesting. I think back, what a nice thing he did for me. About 2 or 3 days a week, he'd say, "Hey, I need to get a workout in. Will you do it with me?" "No, I'm so tired. Come on, I won't do it if you don't." And so I was getting these little workouts in. So yeah, they weren't great. They were just, I think we did circuit training with maybe 5 different things. It was nothing huge, but sometimes that's all you need, man. Like you do I'm going to go crawl for 10 minutes. Well, that's pretty good. Is it perfect? I don't know.
Feels good to feel good. I stay feeling good, so
Yeah, and yeah, this chase for perfect that people have, I just think stupid.
man, again, you're always learning, but I will attest to your I can't attest to the jelly part, but I've put my weight back on and muscle just from eating peanut butter and bagels, like peanut butter bagel sandwiches. So
now, gentle listener, please, before you go too far on this, we're looking at a very specific thing here. And actually, here's an interesting thing, if you don't mind.
yeah.
Once you get your body weight where you want it to be, you'll probably find it refreshing not to force food in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember being in college shoveling food in because I couldn't keep my body weight up. What saved me was Coach Brady when he told me, "Dan, I want you to start drinking more beer." Literally, my coach told me to drink more beer. I'm like, damn, I did not expect that, But the reason is I just couldn't keep and I'd be in the cafeteria shoveling food down, and the girls would be like, I would do anything to eat like this. And I was like, no, you wouldn't, man. Because all I think about is what a chore it is for me to eat, digest, and eliminate this volume every day. And how beat up I'm going to be long term from it. And it's interesting because whenever I've kind of moved on for a while, my body weight just drops, like, just. Um, Now, obviously, when I got the liver parasite, that was one. But during one of my masters, I weighed in the scale. I went to a thing and I just stepped on the scale and it was 209. I went from 242 to 209 in no time at all because I just didn't want to. Once you stop shoveling food down your throat, it's kind of nice, if you don't mind. And I think that's the joy of intermittent fasting, is it tells especially with strength athletes, and not every listener is going to follow this, but when you're a strength athlete, you're constantly trying to be bigger, 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 stronger, 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 more, 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 more. And what fasting teaches you is there's a difference between hunger and starvation, and that you can choose to not eat, which most strength athletes struggle with that concept. So once you get to where you're at, and again, I know some listeners are going to miss this, and I'm not being mean to you, but when we're trying to get ourselves to a place, we're doing things that are actually hard. Shoveling in 6, 7, 8 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches a day. When I first say it, people are probably going, man, I love this idea. Wait till you get the peanut butter and jelly sandwich number 5. And then, or worse, if you don't believe me, do the hard-boiled egg. Call me when you get the hard-boiled egg number 5 or 10 or whatever. It is hard to shovel that stuff in. And when you finally go, I got what I need, all those aren't, your peanut butter and bagel thing isn't a habit, right? It's not a habit. You don't walk in and go, right.
No, it's not a habit. It's a if I do it, it's because I want to do it.
Yeah, it's not a habit. It's something you'll easily be able to change. I don't know if there's wisdom there, but I think there is.
There sounds like there could be. There could be.
Yeah.
But I'm past the age, or at least now, I don't want to be a slave to food or certain diet rituals or things. I want to be free to make my own choices and enjoy it.
Yeah.
There's a lot for that too. So just to get back to because I asked you about why the people at 35, why they lose mass, and I think you kind of said
lean body mass.
Lean body mass.
Lean body mass.
But because
they don't
you're talking
mass.
Right. No, they actually gain mass typically, or they trade off or gain more.
Muscle goes like this, fat goes like that.
Yes, that's not the desired ratio. But I wonder, is it because, like, so when especially if you're a strength athlete, that's an easy example. You go from competing to training, but then life changes. That season passes, and then what? And maybe as you get domesticated, maybe you don't train anymore, and maybe hormones drop. I
can't imagine, as a male, a more difficult transition you can go through in life as going from a strength and power athlete to a normal person. I honestly think there needs to be at least an intervention, if not actual counseling. Because when you're always the biggest person, strongest person, most powerful person in the room, and then all of a sudden you start to become normal, it becomes very difficult. Now, I'm thinking in my mind about a woman I know who went from being always the prettiest little thing in the room to not being there, and how her personality changed. She went from being this to that. So it is really hard for a power athlete to turn that off. And when you start following around the careers of powerlifters, strongmen, Highland gamers, it takes something to stop them. It usually takes a massive injury, a game breaking injury to stop them. What stopped me in my case is the fact I couldn't walk. because of the necrotic hip. And that's when we first met.
Yeah.
I was not doing well, right? Yeah. Yeah.
No. You're like a spring chicken now compared to then.
And I know.
I've got to tell you, like, so I've been, I stalk you on Instagram and Facebook, but like I'm watching you do your swings, you're doing deadlifts, you're doing all the things that I know you love to do. And it's really cool to see.
And 2 days a week, I'm working out double sessions.
Wow.
Mike Brown comes over and we ruck, and then we do the complexes. In fact, the complexes are right in the book, 3 sets of 8, and then he takes off, and then I go to the gym and I do my workout with my trainer. And then 1 day a week I just work out with my trainer, and then 2 days a week we have the community group show up, and and it's nice. I feel good, man. I'm not a person to do mass made simple ever again. I'll tell you that.
Because it feels good to feel good.
Feels good to feel good. To be able to leap out of bed in the morning. Yeah.
Right on.
Amazing stuff. Yeah.
Well, Dan, thank you, man. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us again.
How can we help the listeners? If you could put the book on a link,
okay,
on Target, that'd be nice. But I have a simplified version called Mass Made Simple Lite, Lite, on a T Nation article. If you'd maybe hook that up. Basically that's a smart, doable article. Okay. It's not the whole program, but it'll be enough of an introduction. Like for example, some of the stuff Dick Nottmeyer recommended to us. When you're in a mass building cycle, you should always wear a sweatshirt. Stay as warm as you can. Sleep when you can. When you're not sitting, you're sleeping. When you're not walking, you're sitting. That kind of. You basically turn into a bit of a toadstool for 6 weeks, except when you're squatting and complexing. Yeah.
So yes, I will put those links on the website or the blog link note section, whatever that's called, the notes.
Sure. If you buy the book in the spiral bound, it is cool. I have signed some of those spiral bounds, and the person's workout is in there. And you look at the book, and it's got that look. Like it's got that look of the guy did body weight it's called the up to sets, where you do a total of 50 squats with body weight. However you get there. You could do a set of 10, you could do 5 sets of 10, you could do 18, 12, it doesn't matter. And you can just see. You look at it and you can see that this was in a gym with someone who was right on the edge of. You could see that,
The ink is running from the sweat marks.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
That's awesome.
And I got to tell you, Tim, I've had a lot of wonderful things in my life, but that's one of those little things that's like, yeah, I kind of wish the grandkids could see this one. That's kind of cool. They wouldn't get it, but it's cool. Yeah.
It is cool. Well, gentle listeners, thank you for tuning in to the Original Strength Bodcast with Mr. Dan John.
Love you. Hey, gentle listeners, I love this guy.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, brother. Talk soon?
Yes, sir.
All right.
We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Original Strength Podcast. If you made it this far, thank you so much.